Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something powerful. When you finally understand that you have nothing to prove, you start living on a whole new level. You see, most people live their lives trying to impress people who aren't even watching. They buy things they can't afford, post things they don't believe, chase approval that never lasts. It's like running on a treadmill, exhausting, and you never get anywhere. But here's what I discovered, and I hope you do too. You are not in this life to prove your worth. You are in it to build it. I used to think, if I just get this deal, if I just drive that car, if I just wear that suit, they'll see I made it. But life doesn't work like that. Why? Because external things never satisfy internal emptiness. And the only person you're really running from is you. Let me remind you, an oak tree doesn't shout to prove it's strong. It just stands, it grew slowly, deeply, until it became unshakable. You do the same. Grow your mind, sharpen your skills, deepen your roots. You don't need to announce it. Let your presence do the talking. Now don't confuse nothing to prove with nothing to improve. Big difference. You're always a work in progress, but not for show, for strength. You don't grow to prove others wrong. You grow to prove yourself right about the vision you carry, the purpose you pursue. So stop wasting energy proving your value. Start living it, stop chasing applause, start building legacy, and remember, confidence doesn't shout, it shows. Be the person who doesn't have to prove anything, because they're already becoming everything they were meant to be. True confidence is not something that is given from the outside. It is something that is built from the inside. It doesn't come from applause, approval, or validation. It comes from growth. When a person focuses on developing their character, building their skills, learning from their experiences, and standing by their principles, confidence becomes a natural result. It becomes something stable and lasting, not fleeting and dependent on someone else's opinion. Many people live in a cycle of chasing validation. They want others to notice them, compliment them, applaud them, and affirm them. But validation is temporary. You may receive praise today and criticism tomorrow. If your confidence is tied to someone else's approval, it becomes unstable. It rises and falls with the mood of the crowd. It can be shaken by one negative comment, one failure, or one moment of silence. That kind of confidence is a fragile illusion. It may look strong on the outside, but it's empty on the inside. Real confidence is different. It is built in silence through process and persistence. When a person decides to grow, they become better, wiser, stronger. They begin to build something that doesn't need to be constantly seen or praised. A person who grows learns to respect themselves, not because of titles, likes, or attention, but because they know the effort they've put in. They've shown up on the hard days. They've chosen discipline over distraction. They've taken the time to understand themselves and master their own weaknesses. That kind of growth produces a kind of confidence that doesn't need a stage. Growth teaches you patience. It teaches you humility. It teaches you how to endure, how to adjust, and how to persevere. When you grow, you learn that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every voice needs to be heard. You begin to realize that you don't need to convince anyone of your worth. Your life, your work, your consistency, they will speak for you. Validation is loud, but growth is quiet. Validation is public, but growth is personal. You can't see all the hours a person spends refining their craft, reading books, listening more than speaking, resisting temptations, and making the tough choices. That's where confidence is born, in the moments no one else claps for. A person who grows deeply has nothing to prove because they're too focused on who they're becoming. They're not desperate to be seen. They're determined to be solid. There's a big difference between performing for applause and preparing for impact. The one chasing validation will always feel the pressure to perform, to impress, to exaggerate, to be someone they're not. But the one who grows doesn't feel that pressure. They know that what they're doing matters. They know that their journey, though unseen at times, is meaningful. They're not looking for a reaction. They are building a foundation. Growth also brings a level of security that validation never will. When you know who you are, when you've faced your fears and overcome your inner struggles, when you've gone through failure and kept going, that builds a quiet strength, and that strength can't be shaken easily. It can walk into a room and not need to dominate it. It can listen without needing to interrupt. It can wait without feeling overlooked because it's grounded, it's real. Confidence that comes from growth can admit mistakes. It can say, I don't know, and still feel secure. It can walk away from conflict, not because it's weak, but because it doesn't need to win to feel valuable. Growth gives you the ability to stand tall even when no one notices, to keep going even when you're misunderstood, and to stay focused when everyone else is distracted. In a world addicted to validation, growth is a quiet rebellion. It is the choice to be better, not just appear better. It is the decision to work on your character more than your image. It is a long road, and it often feels slow, but it leads to something lasting. That's why true confidence doesn't need to prove, it only needs to improve. The one who grows knows that validation fades, but wisdom remains. So instead of asking, do they like me? Or did they notice me? Ask yourself, am I growing? Because if you are, then real confidence is being built inside you, and no one can take that away. You don't owe the world an explanation, only results. In a time where opinions are louder than action, where people spend more time justifying their intentions than producing real outcomes, this truth stands tall. It's easy to fall into the trap of over-explaining, defending your decisions, proving your worth through words, and trying to be understood by everyone. But real growth, real leadership, and real success don't beg for permission or understanding. They deliver results, not excuses. The world, at the end of the day, doesn't measure your potential, your reasons, or your backstory. It measures what you do with what you have. Too often people waste valuable energy explaining themselves to those who will never be satisfied, never believe, never support, and never matter in the journey of real achievement. The need to explain becomes a distraction. It shifts the focus from execution to validation, and validation is a poor substitute for accomplishment. While you're busy crafting the perfect explanation, someone else is quietly getting to work. The scoreboard doesn't ask how long it took you, who doubted you, or how hard your past was. It only shows the score. You don't need to explain your dreams to those who haven't built any of their own. You don't need to explain your goals to those who live in comfort zones and fear change. When you carry vision, people may not understand you. When you choose growth, people may call you different. When you walk away from drama to protect your peace, some may call you selfish. But explanations don't change minds, results do. When your progress becomes visible, your silence will be understood. When your fruit appears, no one asks how deep the roots went. The truth is, not everyone deserves an explanation. Explanations are often wasted on those who aren't listening to understand, but simply to judge or criticize. That kind of audience is unworthy of your time. The wise don't explain. They demonstrate. They don't react. They produce. A tree doesn't shout about how well it's growing. It just grows, and one day its fruit speaks for it. That is how you should live. Focus on becoming the proof, not just delivering an argument. There's a quiet power in choosing results over reasons. It means you are more interested in transformation than in perception. It means you are more committed to purpose than applause. People often say they want success, but what they really want is to be liked while pursuing success. And when they don't get the approval they expected, they start explaining, justifying, defending, But real success doesn't depend on applause. It depends on consistent, often invisible effort that compounds over time. It doesn't care if you're doubted, it only requires that you stay dedicated. Every moment spent explaining is a moment not spent executing. Every time you stop to defend yourself, you slow down your own momentum. You don't need to be loud, you need to be focused. There is dignity in moving quietly and letting your outcomes do the talking, not out of arrogance, but out of understanding that excellence speaks for itself. That progress answers more questions than any speech ever could. The world doesn't want your story until they see your success. So instead of giving them paragraphs, give them proof. Life rewards the doer, not the explainer. The one who rises early and does the work, even when no one is watching. The one who stays in alignment with their vision, even when others call them strange or stubborn. The one who keeps building, planting, grinding, not to be seen, but to create something real. Results have a power explanations never will. They silence criticism, quiet doubts, and inspire belief, not because you convinced anyone, but because you became undeniable. You will be misunderstood. That's part of the process. You will be underestimated. That's part of the journey. You will be overlooked, questioned, even mocked at times, but none of that changes your direction, because you're not in this to be understood. You're in this to be effective. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them assume. While they speak, you build. While they judge, you grow. While they ask why, you keep showing them how. And when it's time, when your results are visible and your impact speaks louder than any explanation ever could, they'll understand. Maybe not everything, but enough to know that you were never wasting time. You were investing it, not in talking, but in becoming, not in convincing, but in conquering. And that's the difference between those who watch and those who win. You don't owe the world your reasons, your plans, or your defense. You owe it your work, your persistence, your resilience, and your results. Because in the end, the world respects what it can measure. Not what you intended to do, not what you almost did, but what you actually made happen.